The alarms screamed across every military base on Earth. Something massive had just appeared in orbit, and nobody knew where it came from. Commander Taeyang Park stood in the command center, staring at the screens. The object was huge, 2 kilometers long, shaped like a stretched diamond with curved edges. It wasn't moving. It wasn't sending signals. It just hung there in space, silent and dark. "Get me visual," Taeyang said. His voice was calm, but his hand gripped the edge of the table. The main screen flickered. The ship appeared, and everyone in the room went quiet. It looked damaged. Scorch marks covered the hull. Pieces of metal stuck out at wrong angles. Several sections had holes big enough to fly a shuttle through. "Is anyone alive on that thing?" Taeyang asked. A young officer shook his head. "No life signs, sir. No power readings either. It's completely dead." Taeyang made his decision fast. "Prepare a boarding team. I want engineers, scientists, and security. We go in 4 hours." The shuttle ride to the alien ship felt longer than it actually was. Taeyang sat with his team, watching them prepare. Heijin Ko checked her engineering tools for the 3rd time. She was the best ship engineer Earth had, and she looked nervous. That made Taeyang nervous too. "You think it's a trap?" asked Jiwon Ryu, the pilot. She smiled, but her eyes kept darting to the windows. "If it's a trap, it's a weird one," said Do-hyun Chae. He was the language expert, the one who studied alien cultures. "Why leave a giant ship just floating here? Maybe they want us to take it," Heejin said quietly. "Maybe that's the trap." Taeyang looked at them all. "Stay alert. Trust nothing. We go in, we look around, we come back. Simple." The shuttle docked with a damaged airlock. It took Heejin 20 minutes to get it open. When the door finally slid back, they saw darkness. Their helmet lights cut through the black, showing a corridor that was too tall for humans. The ceiling was at least 4 meters high. "Air is breathable," said one of the scientists, checking his scanner. "Strange. Why would aliens breathe the same air as us?" "Maybe they don't," Do-hyun said. "Maybe this is a cargo ship, and they keep the cargo areas pressurized." They moved through the ship slowly. Everything was too big, too tall, too wide. The walls were smooth metal with patterns that might have been writing or decoration. Some sections had been ripped apart. Wires and tubes hung from the ceiling like dead vines. Heijin stopped at a panel in the wall. She opened it and looked inside. Her face went pale. "Commander, you need to see this." Taeyang looked over her shoulder. Inside the panel, everything was gone. Just empty space, where something important should have been. "Someone took out the main systems," Heijin said. "Not damage from a fight. This was deliberate. They cut out the reactor, the navigation computers, everything valuable. Stripped it clean," Jiwon said. They found the bridge after an hour of searching. It was huge, with stations for at least 20 crew members. Everything was dark, except for their lights. Do-hyun went straight to what looked like a communication station. He pulled out a device and started scanning. "I'm getting something," he said. "Old recordings. Wait. This is..." "Oh. What?" Taeyang asked. Do-hyun's device projected symbols onto the air. They shifted and changed, then became English words. "It's translating. Give me a second." He read silently, and his eyes went wide. "Commander, this ship belongs to the Valrine Empire." Everyone knew that name. The Valrine were legendary in this part of space. They built the best technology, the fastest ships, the strongest weapons. If humans were in kindergarten, the Valrine were in university. "Why would they abandon a warship?" Jiwon asked. Do-hyun kept reading. His face got more confused with each line. "According to this, the ship is cursed. They say it has a computational paradox that can't be solved. They tried for 3 cycles, whatever that means, and finally gave up. The last entry says, 'Abandon to the void.' Let the universe reclaim this failure. Heijin laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. They called their own ship a failure? The Valrine? What's a computational paradox? Asked one of the security officers. It means the computer broke itself thinking about something, Heijin said. And it broke so badly that they couldn't fix it. They explored for 6 more hours. They found crew quarters, storage bays, weapons rooms, and engine spaces. Everything valuable was gone. But the structure was still there. Still intact. It was like someone had removed the heart and brain, but left the body. In the engineering section, Heijin found something that made her stop cold. Strange symbols covered the walls, painted in what looked like emergency foam. Do-hyun came over to translate. It's a warning, he said slowly. It says, the mind cannot compute what contradicts itself. We built perfection that destroyed itself. This vessel is beyond repair. Touch it, and inherit our failure. Cheerful. Ji-won muttered. Back on the shuttle, flying back to Earth, Tae-young looked at the dead ship one more time. It hung in space like a giant metal corpse, but he didn't see a corpse. He saw possibility. What are you thinking, Commander? Heijin asked. I'm thinking that one person's garbage might be another person's treasure, Tae-young said. 2 days later, Tae-young stood in front of the United Earth Council. The room was full of important people from every country. They all wanted to know the same thing. Can we use it? Asked the council president. Maybe, Tae-young said. The Valrine took all the valuable technology. But the hull is intact. The structure is sound. If we can figure out how to power it and control it, we'd have the biggest ship humanity has ever had. The Valrine couldn't fix it, someone said. What makes you think we can? Because, Tae-young smiled. Because we're not the Valrine. We think differently. We solve problems differently. Maybe that's enough. Heijin stood up next. She projected images onto the big screen. The Valrine build everything to work together perfectly. Every part depends on every other part. When one big piece broke, the whole thing stopped working. But we don't build like that. We make things that can work independently. We use backup systems and redundancy. We make things that are good enough, not perfect. So you're saying our technology is worse, but that might help us? The president looked confused. I'm saying our technology is more flexible, Heijin said. We're used to making things work, even when they shouldn't. That's what humans do best. Do-hyun added his part. I've been reading everything I could find about the Valrine. They value efficiency above everything. They want the best solution, the perfect answer. But sometimes, perfect is the enemy of good enough. The council talked for hours. They argued about danger, about cost, about whether it was worth it. Finally, the president made the decision. We'll try. Bring the ship to a stable orbit. Start whatever repairs you can. But if this becomes too dangerous or too expensive, we stop. Understood? Tae-young nodded. Understood. 3 weeks later, the ship had a name. They called it Phoenix, after the bird that rose from ashes. Tae-young thought it was fitting. They were trying to bring something dead back to life. The team grew bigger. Engineers, programmers, scientists, and workers from 20 countries came to join the project. They built a space station next to the Phoenix, a place where people could live and work. Heijin became the chief engineer. She had hundreds of people working under her now. Do-hyun kept translating Valrine documents, learning how the ship was supposed to work. Ji-won started training on flight simulators, trying to understand how to fly something so massive, and they brought in one more person. Her name was Minji Bae, and she was the strangest programmer Tae-young had ever met. She didn't think in straight lines. She thought in loops and tangles and weird connections that somehow made sense. Why did you pick her? Heijin asked, watching Minji talk to herself while looking at code. Because the Valrine think in straight lines, Tae-young said. And that's what broke their ship. We need someone who thinks differently. Far away, on a Valrine ship at the edge of the solar system, Fleet Commander Keltheron watched the humans work on the Phoenix. Her crew thought it was funny. They actually think they can fix it, said her second officer, laughing. Keltheron didn't laugh. She felt something else. Not quite worry, but close to it. Humans are unpredictable. Keep watching them. I want to know everything they do. Why? It's impossible. We tried for 3 cycles. That's what worries me, Keltheron said quietly. We tried the right way and failed. What if they try the wrong way and succeed? 6 months had passed since they started working on the Phoenix. The ship looked different now. Human-made panels covered some of the holes. New lights glowed in sections that had been dark. Power cables ran through corridors like thick snakes. It was progress. But it wasn't enough. Heijin sat in her small office, looking at a screen full of problems. They had fixed the life support. They had repaired the communications. They had even got some of the smaller engines working. But none of it mattered. The big problem remained untouched. Sitting in the center of the ship like a cancer, the central computer core. Still thinking about it? Minji walked in without knocking. She never knocked. She held 2 cups of coffee and handed one to Heijin. I'm always thinking about it, Heijin said. She took the coffee and drank. It was too hot and too strong, but she didn't care. We can't avoid it anymore. We've fixed everything we can fix around it. But without the main computer, this ship is just a really expensive metal box. Minji sat down on the edge of the desk. Tell me again what the Valrine did. Heijin had explained this 100 times, but Minji always wanted to hear it again. Maybe she heard something new each time. The Valrine built one central brain for the whole ship. Everything connected to it. Navigation, weapons, life support, engines, everything. One brain controlling it all. And the brain broke. The brain destroyed itself. According to Do-hyun's translations, they gave the computer 2 jobs. Make the ship as efficient as possible. Also, make it as adaptable as possible. Minji nodded slowly. And those 2 things fight each other. Exactly. Efficiency means doing things the same perfect way every time. Adaptability means being able to change and do things differently. The computer tried to do both at once. It created a logic loop that got worse and worse until the whole thing crashed. And when the Valrine tried to fix it, Heijin pulled up a diagram on her screen. It showed the Phoenix's internal structure. All the systems connected like a spider web. Every system they tried to use to fix it got infected by the same paradox. It's like a disease. Touch the broken computer, and your repair computer breaks too. Eventually, they gave up and just ripped out the core completely. But they didn't replace it. They couldn't. Look at this. Heijin zoomed in on the diagram. They built everything around the core. Taking it out damaged half the ship's systems. Putting in a new one would mean rebuilding everything. It would be easier to build a new ship. Minji stared at the screen for a long time. She didn't say anything. Heijin had learned that when Minji went quiet, her brain was moving fast. Finally, Minji spoke. What if we don't fix it the Valrine way? What do you mean? They tried to replace the brain. What if we don't replace it? What if we just don't use it? Heijin frowned. The whole ship is designed around that central core. Without it, nothing talks to anything else properly. So we make them talk differently. Minji's eyes got bright, the way they always did when she had a strange idea. We build a new nervous system. Not one brain. Many small brains. Each one controls its own section. They don't need to be perfect. They just need to work. That's insane. Maybe. But is it more insane than trying to fix an unfixable computer? Crast. Heijin opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. She looked at the diagram again, seeing it differently. What if Minji was right? What if they stopped trying to fix the Valrine's perfect system and built something imperfect but functional? I need to talk to Taeyang, Heijin said. Commander Taeyang listened to their idea in his office aboard the space station. He didn't interrupt. He just listened, his face showing nothing. When they finished, he was quiet for a full minute. You want to ignore the central core completely, he said finally. Build a bunch of smaller computers and hope they can work together. Not hope, sir, Minji said. I'll write the software that makes them coordinate. It won't be elegant. It won't be efficient like the Valrine way. But it will work. How do you know? Minji smiled. Because that's how humans work. We're not one perfect brain. We're billions of people, all thinking differently, somehow working together. It's messy, but it works. Taeyang looked at Heijin. You think this can work? I think it's the only option we haven't tried, Heijin said. The Valrine way failed. We don't have the technology to build a Valrine-style replacement. So we do it the human way. We improvise. Taeyang stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the Phoenix hung in space, half repaired and waiting. If this fails, we've wasted 6 months and billions of dollars. If we don't try, we've definitely wasted 6 months and billions of dollars, Heijin said. Taeyang turned back to them. Do it. But keep it quiet. I don't want the council breathing down our necks until we know if it works. The next 3 months were the hardest Heijin had ever worked. She split the Phoenix into sections. Each section got its own control computer, built by humans, running human software. The computers were simple compared to the Valrine core, but they were independent. If one broke, the others would keep working. Minji wrote the coordination software in her weird, looping style. She didn't program like normal people. Normal programmers wrote code in neat lines, one instruction after another. Minji wrote code that folded back on itself, that predicted problems before they happened, that adapted on the fly. I don't understand how any of this works, Heijin admitted one day, looking at Minji's code. That's okay, Minji said, typing without looking at her hands. I'm not sure I understand it either. I just know that it feels right. Do-hyun spent his time reading more Valrine documents. He found the original design specifications for the Phoenix. He found maintenance logs, battle reports, and personal journals from the crew. And he found something interesting. Listen to this, he said one evening, when the team gathered for dinner in the station cafeteria. He read from his tablet. This is from the ship's engineer, written 2 months before they abandoned it. He says, we have tried 93 different solutions. All have failed. The core requires unity of purpose to function. We cannot give it contradictory commands and expect harmony. Perhaps the flaw is not in the core, but in our expectations of it. That's basically saying they asked for the impossible, Jiwon said through a mouthful of rice. Exactly. They wanted one thing to do 2 opposite jobs. When it couldn't, they blamed the machine instead of themselves. Heijin thought about that. We're not asking for the impossible. We're asking for good enough. The Valrine don't do good enough, Do-hyun said. They only do perfect. That's their strength and their weakness. On the 137th day of the project, Heijin stood in the Phoenix's new command center. It wasn't the old Valrine bridge. That was too damaged. Instead, they'd built a new one in a cargo bay, filling it with screens and controls that humans could use. Minji sat at her station, fingers dancing across keyboards. Jiwon was at the pilot's position, even though there was nothing to pilot yet. Do-hyun monitored the translation systems, just in case. Taeyang stood behind them all, watching. All sections report ready, Heijin said. Her heart was beating fast. Minji, start the connection sequence. Minji pressed a button. On the main screen, a diagram of the ship appeared. One by one, sections lit up green as their individual computers came online. Engineering green. Life support green. Communications green. Engines green. All systems active, Minji said. Now comes the hard part. Telling them to work together, she entered a command. The green lights flickered. For a horrible moment, Heijin thought they would all turn red. Then they steadied. Lines appeared on the diagram, connecting the sections. The computers were talking to each other. Power flow is stable, Heijin read from her screen. Life support is coordinating with power distribution. Navigation is receiving engine status. It's working. They're talking to each other. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Taeyang stepped forward. Can we move the ship? Jiwon checked her controls. I have helm response. It's sluggish, but it's there. Want me to try? Just a small thrust. Very small. Jiwon touched her controls gently. Outside the windows, stars shifted slightly. The massive ship was moving. The room exploded in cheers. People hugged each other. Someone started crying. Heijin felt her legs go weak and had to sit down. They'd done it. They'd done what the Valrine said was impossible, but the celebration didn't last long. Warning lights started flashing on Minji's station. We have a problem, Minji said. Her voice cut through the noise. Everyone went quiet. The old core is still physically connected to some systems. It's trying to assert control. My coordination software is fighting it. Nunt. 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 Can you disconnect it? Taeyang asked. Not without cutting power to half the ship. We'd have to do it manually, going section by section. Heijin stood up. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months. And while we're doing it, the system is unstable. The broken core is like a zombie, trying to wake up and take control. Jiwon turned in her chair. So we can move the ship, but it might go crazy at any moment? That's about right, Minji said. Taeyang looked at the diagram. The green lights still glowed. But now, red warning indicators pulsed around them. We solved one problem and found another. Story of this whole project. At least we're moving forward, Heijin said. 3 months ago, this ship was dead. Now it's alive. Even if it's sick, we can work with sick. We're good at treating sick. Do-hyun had been quiet through all of this. Now he spoke up. I found something else in the Valrine logs. They knew about the connection problem. They tried to disconnect the core, but every time they cut one connection, the core used another to spread the paradox. It's why they finally just abandoned the whole ship. So the core is actively fighting us, Taeyang said. In a way, yes. It's not intelligent, but it's programmed to maintain control. Even broken, it follows that program. Minji smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Then we're in a race. We disconnect it before it infects our new systems. Should be fun. Node. Later that night, Heijin found Taeyang alone in the observation deck, looking at the Phoenix. She stood next to him quietly. Do you think we can really do this? He asked. I think we already did the impossible once today, Heijin said. What's one more impossible thing? In quote. What's one more impossible thing? The Valrine are watching us. Did you know that? We picked up their ships on long-range sensors. They're staying just outside the solar system, but they're there, waiting to see if we fail or succeed. I'm not sure which scares them more. Heijin looked at the Phoenix, at the lights glowing in its windows. A dead thing, coming back to life. We're not trying to beat them. We're just trying to solve a problem. By ignoring everything they believe about how things should be done. Sometimes that's what it takes. Heijin smiled. My grandmother used to say that there's more than one way to cook rice. The Valrine have their way. We have ours. Neither one is wrong. They're just different. Taeyang nodded slowly. I hope you're right. Because we're committed now. The whole world is watching. And somewhere out there, an empire of aliens is watching too. We can't fail. We won't fail. Then we won't, Heijin said simply. We'll just keep moving forward, one problem at a time. The Phoenix could move now, But it couldn't really go anywhere. Moving a ship and powering a ship were two very different things. The small test they had done used backup batteries, enough for a few hours of basic operations. To actually fly, to use weapons, to generate shields, they needed real power. They needed a reactor. The problem was simple and impossible at the same time. The Valrine reactor was gone. The empty space where it had been was 3 stories tall and 50 meters wide. Even looking at it made Heijin feel small. The Valrine reactor used technology we don't understand, she explained to the engineering team. 20 people sat around the table. The best minds, from a dozen countries. It folded space to create energy, or something like that. Do-hyun translated the documents. But even he doesn't really get it. Can we build a human reactor big enough? Someone asked. Not in that space. A fusion reactor powerful enough to run this ship would be 10 times bigger. And even if we could build it, we don't have 10 years to do it. So, what do we do? Ji-won asked from the back of the room. Give up? Heijin smiled. No. We get creative. She pulled up a diagram. This is what the Valrine did. One perfect reactor. Feeding the whole ship. This is what I'm proposing. The diagram changed, showing multiple smaller reactors scattered throughout the ship. We don't build one big reactor. We build lots of smaller ones. The room went quiet. Then everyone started talking at once. That's inefficient, said an engineer from Japan. The power distribution would be a nightmare, said someone from Germany. The Valrine design doesn't support multiple power sources, said a Brazilian scientist. Heijin waited for them to quiet down. You're all right. It's inefficient. It's complicated. It goes against the original design. But it will work. And we can actually build it. Minji stood up. I can write software to balance the power distribution. It's similar to what I already did for the coordination system. Each reactor feeds its local section, and the software moves extra power to wherever it's needed. How many reactors? Someone asked. 5, Heijin said. We can get 5 fusion reactors from different countries, adapted to fit in smaller spaces. Korea, Japan, European Union, Brazil, and the United States have all offered to contribute. Each reactor will be different, but together, they'll provide enough power. An older engineer shook his head. The Valrine would never do something like this. It's too messy. We're not the Valrine, Heijin said. And maybe that's why we can do what they couldn't. Getting the reactors took 2 months. Each country wanted theirs to be the best, which led to arguments and competition. But eventually, 5 massive devices arrived at the space station, each one different from the others. The Korean reactor was compact and efficient. The Japanese one had the most advanced safety features. The European reactor was the most powerful. The Brazilian one used a new fuel mixture. The American one had the best control systems. They're like 5 different species trying to live in the same house, Ji-won said, watching crews install them. That's humanity in general, Do-hyun replied. Somehow we make it work. Installing the reactors was dangerous work. Each one had to fit into spaces never designed for them. Heijin spent sleepless nights calculating stress points, power flows, and emergency shutdowns. Minji barely left her computer, writing code that would treat 5 different reactors as one system. Taeyong watched it all with growing concern. We're making a lot of assumptions, he told Heijin one evening. Assuming the reactors will work together. Assuming the ship can handle the power distribution. Assuming the Valrine systems will accept our modifications. Yes, Heijin said. We are. What if we're wrong? Then we try something else. But we won't know until we try this. On day 63 of the reactor installation, something unexpected happened. The Valrine made contact. It wasn't a friendly greeting. A message appeared on every screen in the project simultaneously. Do-hyun translated it quickly, his face going pale. They're not happy, he said. What does it say? Taeyong demanded. They say we violated the derelict accord by claiming their ship. They're sending a recovery fleet. They'll be here in 72 hours. The command center erupted in panic. People shouted questions. Someone knocked over a coffee cup. Alarms started beeping. Quiet. Taeyang's voice cut through the noise. Everyone stopped. Do-hyun. Explain this derelict accord. Do-hyun pulled up documents on the main screen. It's an old law in this region of space. If you abandon a ship completely, it becomes salvage, but only if the original owners don't reclaim it within a reasonable time. The Valrine are saying 72 hours is reasonable. They've been watching us for 9 months, Heejin said angrily. Why now? Because now we're succeeding, Minji said quietly. When they thought we'd fail, it was funny. Now we might actually fix their unfixable ship. That scares them. Taeyang stood very still, thinking, can we fight them? No, Heejin said immediately. We don't even have weapons online. The reactors aren't installed yet. We're barely holding the ship together. Can we run? Not far. Not fast. Then, what are our options? Do-hyun looked up from his research. There's a clause in the accord. If we can prove the ship is operational before they arrive, it becomes legally ours. The salvage claim holds. Define operational. Capable of independent movement under its own power. We'd need to complete the reactor installation and take the Phoenix on an actual flight. Not just a test with batteries. A real flight. Heijin did math in her head. We need at least 2 weeks to finish the installation safely. 3 weeks to test everything. We have 72 hours. So it's impossible, Jiwon said. Since when has that stopped us? Minji was already typing. We don't do it safely. We do it fast. We cut corners. We take risks. We make it work right now instead of working perfectly later. Taeyang looked at each of them. If we rush this, people could die. The reactors could fail catastrophically. We could lose the ship and everyone on it. If we don't rush this, we definitely lose the ship, Heejin said. At least this way we have a chance. I need to know you all understand the risk. They all nodded. Then, let's do the impossible, Taeyang said. Again. The next 72 hours blurred together. People worked without sleeping. Teams coordinated across 3 shifts. 24 hours a day. Coffee ran out. Food got forgotten. Everyone moved in a daze of exhaustion and determination. Heijin pushed harder than anyone. She checked every connection personally. She approved every modification. When a problem came up, she solved it immediately and moved to the next one. The Korean reactor came online first. Green lights across the board. It hummed with power, feeding its section of the ship. 1 down, 4 to go, Minji said. She looked terrible. Eyes red. Hair messy. But her fingers never stopped moving across the keyboards. The Japanese reactor had a problem. The safety systems wouldn't clear it for activation. They were designed to prevent any possible failure, which meant they saw the crazy human modifications and refused to start. Override them, Heijin ordered. But the safety protocols. The Japanese engineer started. We don't have time for safety protocols. Override or disconnect. Your choice. He overrode them. The reactor came online. 2 down. The European reactor fought them. It was designed to be the primary power source, not one of 5 equals. It kept trying to assert dominance over the power grid. Minji had to rewrite her coordination software 3 times before it would cooperate. It's like dealing with a stubborn child, Minji muttered, typing code while drinking her 5th energy drink. The Brazilian reactor worked perfectly on the first try. Everyone cheered. Then immediately started on the American reactor, which was the biggest and most complicated. With 30 hours left before the Valrine arrived, 4 reactors were online. The American reactor was in place but refusing to start. Something about the power couplings wasn't right. We've checked everything twice, the American team leader said. Heijin climbed into the reactor space herself, squeezing through maintenance tunnels that were barely big enough for a person. She found the problem immediately. One coupling had been installed backward. A simple mistake, The kind that happened when people were too tired to see straight. I found it, she radioed down. Give me 20 minutes. We don't have the right tools up there, someone replied. Then I'll use the wrong tools. She did. Using a wrench, a spare piece of metal, and pure determination, Heijin forced the coupling into the correct position. It wasn't pretty. It wouldn't pass any inspection. But when she climbed back down and gave the order to start, the American reactor roared to life. 5 reactors. All online. All feeding power into the Phoenix. Power levels at 80% of estimated capacity, Minji reported. That's way better than I expected. The distribution system is handling the load. All sections report adequate power. Ji-won was already at the helm. I have engine control. Full maneuvering capability. Hyperspace engines are online but untested. We'll test them during the flight, Taeyang said. Right now, we need to move. Do-hyun, has the Valrine fleet responded to our messages? No, sir. They're maintaining their approach vector. Estimated arrival in 14 hours. Then we need to prove this ship can fly. Plot a course to the outer solar system and back. Maximum safe speed. Maximum safe speed is very different from maximum speed, Ji-won pointed out. I know. Use maximum speed anyway. The Phoenix moved. Not the slow, careful test from before. This time, the great ship turned with purpose. Engines burning bright. Inside, people felt the acceleration pushing them back. The artificial gravity strained to compensate. This is incredible, Ji-won whispered, her hands dancing over the controls. It's like the ship is waking up. I can feel it responding. They burned outward from Earth, faster and faster. The 5 reactors worked together, feeding power through Minji's coordination system. It wasn't efficient. A Valrine engineer would have cried at the waste. But it worked. Minor power fluctuation in Section 7, Minji reported calmly. Compensating with overflow from Section 3. Stabilized. Minor. Reactor 2 is running hot, someone called out. Within tolerance, but elevated. Noted. Keep monitoring, Heijin replied. She watched her screens, seeing the ship come alive. All her work, all their work, was paying off. They reached the outer system in record time. Ji-won spun the Phoenix around in a maneuver that made people grab their seats. The ship responded like a much smaller vessel, precise and controlled despite its massive size. Heading back to Earth, Ji-won announced. This ship handles like a dream. A weird, complicated dream. But still, on the return flight, Do-hyun picked up a signal. Commander, we're being hailed. It's the Valrine fleet. Put them on. A face appeared on the screen. The Valrine looked almost human, just taller and thinner, with eyes that seemed to see everything. This one wore what looked like a military uniform. I am Fleet Commander Keltharon, the alien said. Her voice was cold. You are operating Valrine property without authorization. This is Commander Taeyang Park of Earth. We are operating salvaged property under the derelict accord. The Phoenix is operational and under independent power, making it legally ours. Keltharon's expression didn't change. You cannot have made that vessel operational. We tried for 3 cycles. The computational paradox is unsolvable. We didn't solve it, Taeyang said. We worked around it. For the first time, Keltharon looked uncertain. Explain. We removed the central computer system from control. We built a distributed network of independent systems. We installed 5 separate reactors instead of 1. We did everything wrong by your standards. And it works. Silence. Keltharon stared at them like they'd said something impossible. You violated every principle of efficient design, she finally said. Yes. The ship must be barely functional, unstable, dangerous. It's not perfect, Heijin spoke up. But it flies. It works. It's ours. Keltharon looked at something off-screen. She seemed to be arguing with someone. Finally, She looked back. We will verify your claim. If the Phoenix is truly operational, the Accord recognizes your ownership. But I want to see proof. Real proof. Face one of our escort frigates in a combat simulation. If your salvage prevails, we depart and acknowledge your claim. Taeyang didn't hesitate. Agreed. Tomorrow. You have 1 day to prepare. Keltheron's image disappeared. In the command center, everyone looked at each other with the same thought. They'd just agreed to fight the Valrine. The command center felt different now. Before, it had been full of hope and determination. Now, fear crept in at the edges. They had 1 day to prepare for a fight against aliens who'd been building warships for thousands of years. Combat simulation, Jiwon said, reading from her screen. What exactly does that mean? Do-hyun had been researching all night. His eyes were red, but his voice was steady. It means they'll use training weapons, lasers that measure hits, instead of actually destroying things. The damage is calculated by computers. If we get hit enough, we lose. If we hit them enough, we win. So nobody actually dies, Minji said. Not unless we make a terrible mistake with the ship itself. But no. The weapons won't kill us. They'll just prove we can't really fly this thing. Taeyang stood at the main window, looking out at space. The Valrine fleet was visible now. Small lights in the distance. 7 ships, each one designed for war. The Phoenix was bigger than all of them, but size didn't mean strength. Can we actually do this? He asked quietly. Heijin came to stand beside him. 3 months ago, could we have made the ship move? 6 months ago, could we have gotten the control systems working? A year ago? Could we have even gotten inside? That's not an answer. Yes, it is. We've done impossible things before. This is just one more. But Heijin didn't feel as confident as she sounded. The truth was, they had no weapons training. The Phoenix's weapons systems were barely online. They'd spent all their time on engines and power, not on guns and shields. I need weapon status, Taeyang said, returning to his command chair. A young officer pulled up the information. We have 4 main weapons online out of 12. The targeting system is working but not calibrated. Shields are at 40% capacity. That's the best we could do in the time we had. What kind of weapons? Jiwon asked. 2 beam weapons, similar to lasers. 1 missile launcher with 6 practice missiles. 1 plasma cannon. But it's unstable. Might explode if we use it wrong. Great, Jiwon muttered. We're going into a fight with one hand tied behind our back, and the other hand might blow up. Minji was at her station, typing as always. I've been analyzing the Valrine frigate specs that Do-hyun found. They're fast. Much faster than us. They're designed for precision strikes, moving in, hitting hard, moving out. We can't beat them at their own game. So what game can we beat them at? Taeyang asked. Unpredictability. The Valrine train for efficiency. They practice the same maneuvers over and over until they're perfect. Their computers calculate the best response to every situation. But we don't fly like that. We improvise. Jiwon smiled slowly. You want me to fly crazy. I want you to fly human. Do things that don't make sense. Waste energy. Make mistakes on purpose. Confuse their targeting systems. I can do that. They spent the next 12 hours preparing. Engineers worked on the weapons. Minji wrote combat coordination software. Jiwon practiced flying the Phoenix like a drunk butterfly, spinning and jerking in ways that made no tactical sense but were impossible to predict. Do-hyun found something interesting in the Valrine databases. Listen to this. It's from their military training manual. Combat is mathematics. Calculate the optimal path. Execute with precision. Victory follows naturally. They think fighting is like solving an equation. What if we don't give them an equation? Heijin said. What if we give them chaos? And then they won't know how to respond. But neither will we. We're better at chaos than they are. It's kind of our specialty. That evening, Taeyang gathered the key team members in a small meeting room. Just 5 people who'd been there from the beginning. Tomorrow might go badly, he said. The Valrine might beat us easily. If that happens, we lose the Phoenix. All this work, for nothing. Don't say that, Heijin said. I have to say it. I'm the commander. It's my job to face the possibilities. He looked at each of them. But I want you all to know something. Win or lose. What we've done here is remarkable. We took something the Valrine said was impossible and made it work. That matters. That means something. We're not going to lose, Jiwan said firmly. I won't let us lose. Your confidence is noted. But be realistic. I am being realistic. The Valrine are better at being perfect. We're better at surviving when things go wrong. And things always go wrong in combat. That's our advantage. Minji nodded. The Valrine frigate will fly perfectly. We'll fly terribly. But terrible is hard to fight against. Morning came too fast. The Phoenix moved into position between Earth and Mars, in the neutral space the Valrine had designated. The enemy frigate appeared. A sleek, silver ship, 1/5 the Phoenix's size. It looked fast and deadly. Like a knife in space. This is Fleet Commander Keltharon. The voice came over communications. The combat simulation will last 30 minutes. Victory conditions are simple. Disable your opponent's main systems or force their surrender. Weapons are set to training mode. No actual damage will occur. The simulation begins in 5 minutes. Taeyang sat in the command chair, feeling the weight of every eye on him. The bridge crew was larger today, including backup personnel for every station. If someone got injured or panicked, someone else could take over. Jiwan, you have the helm, he said. Heijin, manage our power distribution. Minji, keep everything coordinated. Do-hyun, monitor Valrine communications. Let me know if they say anything useful. What about weapons? Asked the weapons officer, a man named Gunho. Fire when you have a target. Don't wait for my order. This is going to move too fast for traditional command structure. That's very non-military, sir. The Valrine are military. We're something else. The 5 minutes passed like 5 seconds. Suddenly, the simulation began. The Valrine frigate moved immediately, accelerating to incredible speed. It was a blur on the screens, circling around the Phoenix like a predator studying prey. They're scanning us, Minji reported. Analyzing our systems, looking for weaknesses. Let them look, Jiwan said. She fired the maneuvering thrusters, and the Phoenix lurched sideways. It wasn't graceful. It looked like a drunk man, stumbling. The Valrine frigate's first attack missed completely. Beams passing through empty space. They aimed where we should have been, Do-hyun said. Their computer calculated our trajectory based on efficient movement. But Jiwan didn't move efficiently. Do-hyun 7. Quote, I moved stupidly. Jiwan agreed happily. She spun the Phoenix again, engines firing in a pattern that wasted fuel and energy. The great ship tumbled through space like a falling brick. The Valrine frigate tried again. This time, some hits registered. Shields absorbed the damage. But red indicators appeared on Heijin's screen. Forward shields at 30%, she called out. Compensating with power from the rear. That's not standard protocol, the shields officer said. Nothing we do is standard protocol. Just keep us alive. Gunho fired the beam weapons. They missed badly. The targeting system was designed for precision, but the Phoenix was moving too erratically for precision. He switched to manual control, pointing the weapons by instinct instead of calculation. One beam grazed the frigate. It was barely a hit, but it was something. First blood, Gunho said with satisfaction. The Valrine responded by increasing speed. They became harder to track, moving so fast that human eyes couldn't follow. But Minji's coordination system didn't use eyes. It tracked through multiple sensors, predicting positions a fraction of a second ahead. Firing missiles, Gung-ho announced. 6 projectiles launched, spreading in a wide pattern. The Valrine frigate dodged most of them easily, but one missile, purely by luck, clipped their wing. Damage to enemy vessel, Do-hyun reported. Minor. But their shield efficiency dropped by 8%. 8% from one lucky hit? Taeyang leaned forward. Their shields are optimized for direct hits. They're not designed for random attacks from weird angles, because random attacks from weird angles are inefficient, Minji said. So they never trained for them. Jiwon was laughing now, spinning the Phoenix in ways that made several crew members look sick. This is insane. This ship shouldn't be able to move like this, but it does because we built it wrong. The Valrine frigate tried a new tactic. It came in close, trying to target specific systems. Beam weapons lanced out, hitting the Phoenix's engines. Red lights flashed across Hagen's station. Engine 2 is offline, she reported. Reactor 4 is overheating. We're losing power in sections 9 through 12. Compensate, Taeyang ordered. I am compensating, but we can't take many more hits like that. The Valrine were learning. They'd figured out that the Phoenix's shields were weakest where the 5 reactors had to coordinate power. They were targeting those junction points deliberately. They adapted to our weakness, Do-hyun said. Their computer analyzed our design and found the flaws. Then we adapt to their adaptation, Taeyang said. Minji, can you reroute power to make our weak points stronger? Not without making other points weaker. Do it anyway. Move the weakness somewhere they're not targeting. Minji typed frantically. The power distribution changed, shields strengthening in some areas and dropping in others. The Valrine fired at what should have been weak spots and found them suddenly strong. Their attacks, calculated perfectly for the old configuration, bounced off harmlessly. They're confused, Do-hyun reported, listening to Valrine communications. They're arguing. The computer is saying one thing, but their sensors are showing another. Good, Taeyang said. Keep them confused. Jiwon, attack pattern random 7. Random 7 isn't a real pattern, sir. I know. Make something up. Jiwon grinned and pushed the Phoenix into a spin that shouldn't have been possible. The massive ship rotated while flying backward, weapons firing in all directions. Most shots missed, but 3 hit the Valrine frigate from angles they never expected. Critical hit, Gung-ho shouted. Their navigation system is damaged. They're moving slower now. The Valrine tried to retreat, to get distance and recalculate. But Jiwon was ready. She pushed the engines hard, ignoring the warnings about stress and heat. The Phoenix lunged forward like a striking snake, closing the distance. Plasma cannon is ready, Gung-ho reported. But it's still unstable. Fire it, Taeyang ordered. Sir, it might explode. Fire it. Gung-ho fired. The plasma cannon roared, spitting a ball of superheated gas toward the Valrine frigate. The frigate tried to dodge, but their damaged navigation made them too slow. The plasma hit directly, spreading across their shields like liquid fire. The Valrine shields collapsed. Alarms sounded across both ships. The simulation registered it as a complete power failure on the frigate. Combat simulation complete, an automated voice announced. Phoenix is victorious. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then someone cheered. Then everyone cheered. People hugged each other, crying and laughing at the same time. They'd done it. They'd actually done it. Taeyang stayed in his chair, breathing slowly. His hands were shaking, but he didn't let anyone see. The communication screen activated. Fleet Commander Keltheron appeared. She looked like she'd been slapped. That was... She struggled for words. Unusual. Unusual. That's one way to put it, Taeyang said. Your tactics were inefficient, wasteful, illogical. You violated every principle of proper combat. You flew like chaos itself. Yes, Keltheron paused, and then did something unexpected. She smiled. And it was magnificent. You didn't beat us with better technology or superior firepower. You beat us with unpredictability, with adaptation, with the willingness to do things wrong if wrong works. Her smile faded. The Phoenix is yours, Commander Park. You've earned it in ways we never expected. We acknowledge your claim. The Valrine fleet began to depart, their ships turning away from Earth. But Keltheron's image remained on screen. One more thing, she said. When you face something truly impossible, something even your chaos can't handle, contact us. We Valrine bring efficiency and precision. You humans bring adaptation and creativity. Together. She paused. Together, we might surprise the galaxy. Her image disappeared. 1 year had passed since the combat trial. The Phoenix hung in orbit around Earth, but it looked completely different now. Human modifications covered every surface. New weapons, new sensors, new communication arrays. It was still recognizable as a Valrine ship, but it was also undeniably human. The ship had become more than just a vessel. It became a symbol, proof that humanity could take what others discarded and make it into something powerful. Proof that different didn't mean wrong. Taeyang stood on the bridge, now officially Admiral Park. The title still felt strange. He'd been a commander his whole career, always working in the background. Now he was famous, and he didn't like it much. Admiral, Heijin approached. She was director of xenotechnology now, leading Earth's efforts to understand alien technology. The new crew assignments are ready for your approval. Taeyang took the tablet and scrolled through names. The Phoenix was getting a full crew today. 300 people from 20 different countries, all trained to work on this impossible ship. They'd been preparing for months, learning the weird hybrid systems that mixed Valrine design with human improvisation. They're ready? He asked. As ready as anyone can be for this. We've simulated everything we can. But you know how it is. Simulations aren't real. They'll learn by doing. Like we did. Exactly like we did. Jiwon was at the helm station, now officially captain of the Phoenix. She'd earned the title, proving herself over dozens of test flights. She could make the massive ship dance like a fighter, could push it to limits that made engineers nervous, and always brought it back safe. Captain, Taeyang said formally. Status report. Jiwon grinned at the formal tone. They'd been friends too long for ranks to really matter between them. All systems green, Admiral. 5 reactors running at optimal inefficiency. Weapons online and properly miscalibrated. Shields at full chaotic strength. The ship is ready to be completely unpredictable. Minji was still at her coordination station. She'd refused promotion several times, saying she liked where she was. Her strange, looping software now ran throughout the ship, keeping everything working together despite having no right to work at all. Coordination matrix is stable, she reported. All the different systems are getting along today. Yesterday, Section 7 and Section 12 were fighting over power distribution, but I made them share. You made the ship's computers share? Taeyang asked. I gave them a timeout until they learned to cooperate. It worked. Do-hyun sat at the communication station, his role expanded to ambassador for xenotechnology affairs. He spent half his time translating alien documents and the other half explaining humanity to confused aliens. The Valrine contacted him regularly, fascinated by Earth's approach to their technology. We're receiving a transmission, Do-hyun said. It's from Fleet Commander Keltheron. Put her on. The Valrine appeared on the main screen. Over the past year, she'd become almost friendly with the Phoenix crew. Almost. She still looked at them like they were interesting animals doing tricks. Admiral Park, Keltheron said, I'm contacting you about the matter we discussed last month. Taeyang nodded. The anomaly in the Kepler sector. Yes. Our science vessels have been studying it. The situation is worse than we thought. The entity is awakening faster than predicted. We estimate 6 months before it becomes active. Lum. Murmurs ran through the bridge. Everyone had heard rumors about the anomaly. An ancient alien presence. Something that predated both Valrine and humans by millions of years. It had been sleeping, but now it was stirring. What exactly is it? Heijin asked. Keltheron's expression was grim. We call it the Silence. It's not a ship, or a weapon, or even a life form as we understand it. It's a force of pure entropy. When it awakens, it consumes energy, matter, information. Everything within its reach becomes nothing. Silent. Gone. Has anyone fought it before? Yes. 3 civilizations tried. According to ancient records, all 3 are extinct now. The Silence went back to sleep only because it ran out of things to consume in its sector. But now something has disturbed it. It's waking up, and if it fully awakens, it will consume everything in 12 nearby systems, including Earth, Taeyang said quietly. Including Earth. The bridge went silent. This wasn't a simulation or a test. This was real danger. The kind that could end civilizations. What do you propose? Taeyang asked. A joint mission. Valrine efficiency and precision. Human adaptability and chaos. We've been studying the Silence for decades. We have weapons that might work. Strategies that might contain it. But we need unpredictability. The Silence learns from patterns. It adapts to conventional attacks. Nothing efficient works because it becomes efficient at defending against efficiency. You need us to be weird, Jiwan said. Essentially, yes. Can you be ready to depart in 1 week? Taeyang looked around his bridge. Heijin nodded. Jiwan gave a thumbs up. Minji was already typing, probably designing strange new software for fighting entropy. Do-hyun bowed slightly, his acceptance of the mission. We can be ready, Taeyang said. But Admiral Park commands the Phoenix. I won't take orders from the Valrine fleet. Keltheron actually smiled. I wouldn't dream of giving you orders, Admiral. Your ship doesn't follow orders well. We'll provide intelligence and support. You do what you do best. Chaos. Then we'll see you in a week. The transmission ended. Taeyang turned to his crew. You heard her. We have 6 days to prepare for a mission that might save the galaxy, or kill us all. Probably both. Standard day for the Phoenix, Heijin said. The next week was controlled chaos. The new crew arrived and had to learn the ship quickly. Supplies were loaded. Weapons were tested. The Valrine sent data about the Silence, and Do-hyun worked day and night translating and analyzing it. It's fascinating, he told the senior staff during a briefing. The Silence isn't evil or aggressive. It doesn't hate. It just exists, consuming everything to sustain itself. Like a black hole, but conscious. Sort of. How do you kill something like that? Heijin asked. You don't. The ancient records suggest containment, not destruction. Trap it. Confuse it. Make it go back to sleep. The problem is, it's incredibly intelligent. It learns from every attack. So we can't use the same tactic twice, Jiwan said. Exactly. Which means planning is difficult. We'll have to improvise everything. We're good at improvising. Minji said. On the day of departure, Earth's leaders held a ceremony. Speeches were given about humanity's courage, about cooperation between species, about hope for the future. Taeyang stood through it all, wanting to be back on his ship. Finally, they were released. The Phoenix undocked from the station, its 5 reactors humming with power. The crew settled into their stations, 300 people working together like one organism. Set course for the Kepler sector, Taeyang ordered. Maximum speed. The Phoenix accelerated, leaving Earth behind. Within hours, they were at the jump point, ready to enter hyperspace. The Valrine fleet was waiting there. 7 ships, in perfect formation. This is Fleet Commander Keltheron. We're ready when you are. Admiral. Jump on my mark, Taeyang said. 3, 2, 1. Mark. Both fleets jumped together, human and Valrine ships disappearing into hyperspace. The journey would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks to prepare for something no one really understood. During the journey, the crews trained together. Valrine officers visited the Phoenix, staring in horror at the inefficient systems. Human engineers visited Valrine ships, amazed by the elegant perfection of everything. Your ship hurts to look at, a Valrine engineer told Heijin. Everything is wrong. But it works. How? Because wrong is just a perspective, Heijin said. Your perfection is beautiful. Our chaos is functional. Neither is better. They're just different. Midway through the journey, Minji made a breakthrough. She'd been studying the Valrine data on the silence, looking for patterns. It's predictable in its unpredictability, she announced at a staff meeting. The silence adapts to attacks by analyzing their efficiency. It assumes enemies will optimize, will seek the perfect solution. So it prepares defenses against perfect solutions. But imperfect solutions? Taeyang asked. It doesn't prepare for those because they don't make sense. It's like the Valrine frigate in our combat trial. It calculated where we should be, not where we actually were. So we don't fight it efficiently, Jiwan said. We fight it stupidly. We fight it human. When they arrived in the Kepler sector, the silence was visible from light years away. A dark void in space, a place where no stars shone. Sensors couldn't penetrate it. Light didn't reflect from it. It was a hole in reality. That's not natural, Heijin whispered. No. Kel'Thuran's voice came over communications. It's very much not natural. That's the silence in dormant state. When it wakes fully, the void will expand at the speed of light, consuming everything. How long do we have? Days. Maybe hours. It's impossible to predict. We need to act immediately. 2. The plan was simple in concept, impossible in execution. The Valrine would attack with precision strikes, forcing the silence to respond. While it was distracted, the Phoenix would deploy a containment field, a cage of energy designed to trap the entity. The problem was, the containment field required perfect timing and perfect positioning. One mistake, and it would fail. And the Phoenix was not good at perfect. We're not good at perfect, Taeyang told Kel'Thuran during their planning session. But we're excellent at good enough. Good enough won't work here. The mathematics require precision within a millimeter across a space of millions of kilometers. Then we'll be precise in our own way. The attack began at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in deep space. The Valrine fleet moved with elegant coordination. 7 ships dancing in perfect formation. They fired at the void with weapons designed to irritate, not damage. Energy beams, kinetic missiles, particle bursts. The silence responded. The void pulsed, and tendrils of darkness reached out, impossibly fast. They caught a Valrine ship, and within seconds, the ship was gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Erased from existence. This is Kel'Thuran. Maintain formation. Continue firing pattern. Alpha 7. Gentime 6. Gentime 7. Gentime 6. Gentime 7. The Valrine were calm, even watching their ship vanish. They'd known losses would happen. They continued their attack. Precise and perfect, forcing the silence to focus on them. Phoenix. You're clear to deploy the containment field. Jiwan moved the Phoenix into position. It took 20 minutes of careful maneuvering, threading between the silence's reaching tendrils. Twice, they almost got touched by the darkness. Twice, Jiwan's instinct saved them, jerking the ship in directions that made no tactical sense, but avoided death. We're in position, Jiwan reported. Ready to deploy. Deploy on my mark, Kel'Thuran said. The silence changed. It stopped reacting predictably. Instead, it contracted. pulling all its tendrils back into the void. Then, it exploded outward, in all directions at once. "That's not in the pattern," a Valrine officer shouted. 2 more Valrine ships vanished. The remaining 4 scattered, their perfect formation broken. The Silence had learned, had adapted, had done something unpredictable. "It's imitating us," Minji said. "It saw our unpredictability and copied it." "Can it do that?" Taeyang demanded. "Apparently yes. And if it learns to be as chaotic as us, we can't fight it." The Silence expanded again, moving toward the Phoenix now. Jiwan tried to evade, but the tendrils were everywhere. One touched the shield, and the Phoenix screamed. Alarms blared across every station. "Shields failing," Heijin shouted. "The Silence is eating our energy. Reactors 1 and 2 are going dark. Eject them," Taeyang ordered. "What?" "You heard me. Eject the dead reactors. Cut them loose before the Silence eats the whole ship." Heijin activated emergency protocols. The dead reactors, still connected to pieces of the ship, were cut free and drifted away. The Silence consumed them eagerly, giving the Phoenix precious seconds to retreat. "We can't deploy the containment field without full power," Minji said. "And we can't get close enough with 3 reactors instead of 5. Taeyang thought fast, the way he'd learned over a year of impossible problems. "We don't need full power. We need enough power." "Minji, can you deploy a partial containment field?" "Partial won't hold it. I don't need it to hold. I need it to confuse." "Keltheron, are you listening?" "I'm here, Admiral. We've lost 3 ships. This isn't working. New plan. We deploy a partial field. It won't trap the Silence, but it will limit its movement in one direction. You use that limitation to hit it from the restricted angle. Force it to compress, to fold in on itself." "That's..." Keltheron paused. "That's actually brilliant. Or insane. Possibly both. That's humanity in general. Are you in?" "We're in." The Phoenix moved back toward the void, 3 reactors burning at maximum output. The ship shook and groaned, stressed beyond design limits, but it held together, the jury-rigged systems somehow working under impossible conditions. "Deploying partial containment field," Minji announced. Energy poured from the Phoenix, forming a wall of force along one side of the void. It wasn't complete. Wasn't perfect. There were gaps and weak points. But it was there, limiting the Silence's expansion on one side. The Silence tested the wall, tendrils probing for weaknesses. Each touch drained energy. But Minji kept compensating, rerouting power, keeping the wall standing through pure determination and strange software. "Valrine Fleet, this is Park. Execute your attack. Now." The 4 remaining Valrine ships attacked in perfect synchronization, hitting the Silence from the restricted angle. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, exotic matter projectiles, everything they had. The Silence tried to expand away from the attack, but the Phoenix's wall blocked it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the Silence began to fold, compressed by the coordinated attack. It grew smaller, denser, fighting the compression but unable to escape. "It's working," Heijin shouted, but the Phoenix was dying. The power drain was too much. Reactor 3 flickered and went dark. Then, Reactor 4. The ship was running on one reactor now, and it wasn't enough. "I'm losing the containment field," Minji said. "Hold it," Taeyang ordered. "I can't." "Then make the ship help you." Minji understood. She stopped trying to control the containment field perfectly. Instead, she let the ship's systems fluctuate wildly, drawing power from anywhere and everywhere. Life support dropped. Gravity failed in half the ship. Lights went out. Everything was sacrificed to maintain that one wall of force. The Silence compressed further, becoming a ball of concentrated void. Smaller and smaller it shrank, fighting the whole way. The Valrine fleet kept firing, kept pushing. The Phoenix kept its wall standing through sheer, stubborn refusal to die. Finally, The silence collapsed completely, folding in on itself like origami. The void became a pinpoint, then a dot, then silence. Real silence. Nothing. Is it gone? Jiwan asked after a moment. Not gone, Keltheron said. Dormant again. Back to sleep. Our sensors show it will remain dormant for at least 1,000 years, maybe more. We did it. The Phoenix drifted. Powerless. Dark. One reactor remained active. Barely enough to keep minimal life support running. But the crew was alive. The ship was intact. They'd survived. This is Keltheron. Phoenix. Do you need assistance? Yes, Taeyang admitted. We sacrificed everything to maintain that field. We're dead in space. We'll tow you back. It's the least we can do. As Valreen's ships attached towing cables to the Phoenix, Keltheron's face appeared on the small emergency screen still functioning. Admiral Park, what you did today saved 12 systems, billions of lives. The Valreen Council wants to formally recognize your contribution. We were just doing our job. Taeyang said, You were doing the impossible. Again. You've made me rethink many things. When I first saw you working on the Phoenix, I thought you were fools, damaging a perfect design. Now I see that perfection isn't the only path. Sometimes, chaos achieves what perfection cannot. And sometimes perfection achieves what chaos cannot, Taeyang replied. We needed your precision today, as much as you needed our chaos. Together, we surprise the galaxy. Keltheron finished. Yes, together we do. Admiral, when the Phoenix is repaired, the Valreen Empire would like to propose a permanent alliance. Joint missions, shared technology, combined operations. We teach you efficiency. You teach us adaptation. Taeyang looked around his bridge at his exhausted, triumphant crew. I think we can manage that. 6 months later, the Phoenix led a small fleet back to Earth. 3 Valreen ships flew in formation with her. An escort that was also a symbol. The ships looked strange together, elegant Valreen vessels alongside the chaotic Phoenix, but they worked together perfectly. Earth celebrated. The crew of the Phoenix became heroes, their impossible mission now legendary. But for Taeyang and his team, it was just another day of making the impossible work. What's next, Admiral? Heijin asked, as they stood on the observation deck, watching Earth grow larger on the screen. Next, we explore. There's a whole galaxy out there. The Valreen know they're part of it. We'll show them ours. Together, we'll see what nobody's seen before. More impossible missions? I hope so. That's what we're good at. The Phoenix entered Earth orbit, battered and repaired and stronger than ever. It hung in space like a promise that different species could work together. That efficiency and chaos could complement each other. That humanity's way of solving problems wasn't wrong, just different. And in the end, different was exactly what the galaxy needed.